Michael, how are you, sir?
Hello, Roberto. How are you? Merry Christmas. Feliz Navidad.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy Hanukkah too, right? It's that time of
Yes,
year.
happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa. Yes.
Mike, I'm gonna let you riff because there's a lot happening. Let's start with let's start with the what happened yesterday with the mayor's top aide and what this all means, right? I was telling someone else it's been going on for months that that the mayor won't survive and this, but then the election of Trump, now we're hearing pardon. The president himself said, I'm open to it. And my understanding is I read something yesterday that the next court date may be postponed till post the inauguration. But that's what I have you on for because, you're the subject matter expert and I want to hear your thoughts on what this all means in the latest news cycle.
It's all very it's a gift to the media because we now have lots of stories going into 2025, but it's a tragedy, for the mayor, for the administration, and for the people of the city of New York. I think who whenever we have these political corruption cases, the allegations, the trials, it's very disheartening to people who lose sort of faith in government being able to to deliver on services, but also that it's populated by people who want to do good and not those who are accused of using government to to profit and to better their own lives at the expense of New Yorkers. But in response, you asked a number of different questions. This morning, I was thinking about the city for sale era during Mayor Ed Koch's term, I think second term in office in the 80s, where a number of people in politics around him, and that's not necessarily within the administration, but around him, whether it was Donald Manis, the Bronx political leader at the time, Stanley Friedman. A lot of folks are involved in political corruption and had very public trials. But at that time, Mayor Ed Koch himself was never accused of being corrupt or having close associates who were corrupt. And so I think that's why he was able to survive that because it didn't really touch him directly or his closest people at City Hall. Um, Mayor Adams had a different situation. I mean, his administration has been plagued by accusations of corruption from almost the very beginning. I mean, everybody forgets, that Eric Ulrich, his first buildings commissioner, was arrested by state authorities on uh, on corruption charges, on charges involving gambling, associating with with mob type people, and them using him and his role as building commissioner to to help themselves, and he's trying to get out of whatever deep trouble he was in when it came to his gambling. And then from there, it moved on, and there became other people who were accused. And then the mayor's own re-election election campaign in 2021 and was accused of taking money from foreign donors, which is illegal under state, federal, and local law. And then some of those donations, because they were coming from out of the country from foreigners who were not New Yorkers, straw donations, money that was given or reimbursed to people who were legitimate residents of New York and could legitimately give, but really weren't giving their own money as the law requires. So you have a number of things that are going on all at once. And then yesterday you had his closest aide, some people would say, his brain or his conscience, and Ingrid Lewis Martin, being perp walked in a Manhattan courthouse and charged with corruption. It's not good, And then you have, the president-elect Donald Trump, who's been expressing words of support for Mayor Adams, saying that the Bush and the Biden administration had weaponized the Justice Department to go after their enemies, and alleging that Mayor Adams was targeted by the Biden administration, by the Biden Justice Department, because he had spoken out against the lack of control of the border and the thousands of migrants sent into New York from Texas and other places. because he spoke out against it. The president claims that Donald Trump claims that he was targeted. Anyone that's been paying attention, anybody that's actually read the indictment, something that Trump himself has admitted he is not familiar with. He's only going by his gut and by his effort to try to, what is it, to denigrate Democrats and to denigrate the Biden administration. If you read the full indictment and the 5 charges that the mayor has been charged with, these are very serious crimes, and they're not something that stems from the president being pissed at Mayor Adams for challenging him on the border. The investigation began long before the illegal immigrants, migrants from the border began showing up in New York City.
Michael, I'm also reading today that there's a possibility that the campaign finance board may ask for $10 million back. Uh, Now, here's my question to you: does he still have a shot at winning re-election? Because again, the folks that have announced that they're running, sort of lean left of center, and what we're seeing is that there's a trend more towards the middle these days. So, do you think that all of this spells doom for the mayor, or do you think there's still, I was talking to someone yesterday about Buddy Cianci in Providence, and um, so is there daylight potentially? Because it's such a weak field, he has the power of incumbency, and District Attorney Bragg made it clear that he's not a part of this investigation. Meaning, he could conceivably say, "Hey, and he's going to say I wasn't aware," and that's true. Most people will agree with that, right? You don't know everything when you're at the top, right?
Right, right. But Roberto, you asked like a million different topics at the same time. I got to keep track of which one comes first. The week for the mayor began badly with the campaign finance board ruling that they would not authorize any public matching funds for his 2025 campaign for several reasons. One being his federal indictment on corruption and the use of and the accusation of foreign money and straw donation into the 2025, into the 2021 and the 2025 campaigns. Today, yes, I think they, as part of their audit, which they said on Monday, that the mayor's 2021 campaign had not completed by responding appropriately to their questions, that they're withholding money. And then now you're telling me, if I haven't read the full story, that they are going to try to claw back $10 million, which they probably believe was money that's tainted via straw donations and came from donors who were not, legally able to give the 2021 campaign money. Now, the question as to whether or not the mayor can run an effective campaign for reelection in the Democratic primary next June, it's going to be hard. I mean, he says he has $3 million that he could spend in a primary, and the public matching would be additional money, but he believes that the cash he has on hand for the 2025 campaign without public matching funds would be enough for him to fight for the June primary. But he got a problem with that. The trial, his corruption trial, federal corruption trial, is scheduled to begin in April, which is, as my calendar tells me, is 2 months prior to the actual primary day in June. And he would be running for re-election and Democratic nominee in June as a person who was on trial. And the trial likely will not be over before the late June Democratic primary. New Yorkers are looking at a field of heavily left of center, if not leftist, candidates for mayor, with Zoran Mamdani, the assemblyman from Queens, being the most far left. Jessica
Michael,
Ramos.
Michael, that's where
Yes.
I'm going next. Do any of these folks impress you in terms of their ability to put it together and win?
No. I mean, Mamdani has won the hearts and minds of a very liberal, if not leftist, press media in New York City because he makes videos. He goes on TikTok. He goes on Instagram. He's on X, and he's raised a lot of money because there are a lot of wealthy leftists in New York City and in the New York area that would give money to someone like him. Who's actually a Nepo baby. He has very little connection to average New Yorkers and the lives we've lived through. His dad is a Columbia University professor. He's now the chancellor of the University of Kampala in Uganda. His mom is a world-renowned filmmaker out of India. His family roots are in the slave trade in East Africa. He's not the kind of person, elected official that I think average New Yorkers would move towards in a primary. Jessica Ramos is a state senator from Queens who wants to legalize, sex work in her own community, in the Roosevelt Avenue area, where they're inundated with brothels, with sex trafficking women from Latin America who come here as migrants and have been forced into the sex trade, and she thinks that seems to be okay in her mind. I see where Senator Zelda Myrie, he's trying to tack to the middle, but he's also a progressive left politician. Scott Stringer, who's run for mayor before, who's been the Manhattan Borough president, he's been the city controller. He is the only one I think currently who you could say is left, but he's more center than any of his rivals. Jim Walden, an independent who says he's running in the primary, is an attorney, but he's not well known. Then you have the 800-pound gorilla, who's about to break down the doors to enter the mayoral race, in former Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Michael, you're the first one to say that he's coming, that he's running with certainty.
I suspect he is. He's making a comeback. If you've noticed, and your listeners have seen and noticed in the news recently, he's been pushing back mightily against the women who've accused him of sexual harassment. In fact, I believe one of them, Charlotte Bennett, he's planning to sue for defamation now that her case was withdrawn from court. His team is urging Governor Hochul not to make any settlement with her, with Bennett, or any of his other accusers. And I believe it's all in preparation for his announcement at the beginning of the year that he's going to contend for mayor, because he sees a weakened Eric Adams. He sees a far left field running for mayor in a Democratic primary. He believes he can beat Scott Stringer. And he has, from what I understand and talking to my contacts still in government and politics and the community, he's still well liked by African American voters, middle class voters of Queens, of Harlem, and Brooklyn, where that gives him a base. And of course, he has his base within the Italian American community in New York, and others who liked his tenure as governor and would be called during the pandemic, the homosexuals who were in his corner and hung on his every word during the pandemic. The negative he has is his order that the COVID positive individuals were sent back to nursing homes where they spread the disease and led to the necessary deaths of a great many seniors in our nursing homes across New York State.
How about Michael Blake, Michael? Do you think he's got a shot?
Did you hear me mention his name?
Oh, Lord. Cold, man. That's cold.
His last office he ran for was public advocate, and he got destroyed. So I don't see him having a shot running for mayor. You see what his ambition is. He wants to run for mayor. At the same time, he wants to be head of the Democratic National Committee. Wow. Come on, bro. Make up your mind.
Michael, how about the comptroller's race? Are you paying attention? There's Levine, Raj Kumar, and Justin Brannon.
None of whom are qualified. I mean, I know them all. I know Jennifer. I have a relationship with Justin Brannon, Mark Levine. I know of. None of them impress me. I must admit that I do have a friend, Ishmael Malabey, who's running for controller. He's not well known. He's not an elected official, but he's worked for 5 different controllers at the city and state level, and he has an MBA. He is the only candidate who's announced and has been raising money who actually has a finance degree and understands how the office operates. Everybody wants, and all the ones who are running so far, they want to use it as if it's a launching pad for mayor. Very few of them have talked about the real role of being a controller, which is to protect the pensions of New York workers. It's to be a budget watchdog, and it's to be a watchdog against corruption and to root it out. The current controller hasn't even discussed corruption, and he's never even given what this current administration or the administration has been accused of. You would think this controller would look for corruption. He hasn't done that. I believe this week, this week in the Post, we called him out on the corruption of within the homeless nonprofit industry. How many of these executives have been double dipping and taking the city and taxpayers for a ride with their huge salaries, and taking all this money in for homeless services, and we still aren't properly housing our people who need housing.
Michael, what about Richie Torres and his now combative stance towards the governor? What do you make of that? And does he have a legitimate shot? And obviously, Antonio Delgado, the lieutenant governor, is also flirting based on the recent news stories. What are your thoughts on either? Do you think they have a chance at potentially defeating the governor in a couple of years?
That's 2 years out. You don't want to shoot your load early. And
Mm.
I would advise against doing that. After Delgado, I mean, you're sitting as a lieutenant governor here and you're plotting to unseat the current governor while you have another 2 years to go in your tenure. I don't think that's very wise. I think Richie has a shot. I think Richie ought to run for mayor. Rather for an office 2 years out. He does have good relations with a lot of New Yorkers, particularly his stance on Israel has drawn a lot of recognition and admiration among Jewish New Yorkers and New Yorkers who support Israel and who are opposed to anti-Semitism and did not like what transpired on our college campuses as Jews and Israelis were attacked and accused of genocide, all kinds of awful things which are untrue. I think Richie is himself as a moderate. I believe he is a moderate. He's been in the city council. And I think he ought to be running for mayor instead of running for governor 2 years out. But that's on him and his team. So I would prefer to see him toss his hat in the ring for mayor in
Michael,
2025.
as someone who walked away on top, that could have probably been in the assembly in perpetuity. If you would if you would have chosen to do so,
I
right?
would probably would have still been there. That's
No,
correct.
no,
Yeah.
no, right. You decided, hey, I've had enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore. And you did a Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, and Rocky Marciano. No, no, no. What are the
I
lessons now?
quit while I was ahead.
Now that you're at now
I
that
with all
you
my marbles.
Michael, now that you're at liberty to basically call it like you see it, what are the lessons that Democrats need to take away and not have a 10-year post-Trump? I read this thing today about how Dominican males and certain EDs voted for Trump. What are the Democrats? What are they missing in terms of working class, blue collar? What other lessons, right? If you were advising the Dems right now, meaning Hakeem Jeffries and folks who have skin in the game, and the governor, what should they be doing more of? Even the numbers in the city grew. It grew. The numbers grew, and hence the mayor feeling a certain way, right? Rightfully so. There's a
It's
calling
nothing.
for it.
It's nothing new though. Um, I'll take you back a little over 30 years. I was a Bill Clinton guy from 1991. I think from 1988 when I heard him speak at the Democratic convention. And most people didn't dismiss the speech because they didn't care for it. But I recognized what he was talking about and the need for Democrats to move toward the center and look at those policies that are important. And when he was running, I went to New Hampshire. The only person I've ever gone to New Hampshire to campaign for was Bill Clinton. And then in March of '92, I joined his campaign in preparation for the for the New York primary. We needed, and the Clinton was right, and the Democratic Leadership Council was correct. We need to tack and to stay in the middle. Jim Carville had it right, and it's still correct today. It's the economy, stupid. That's what moves voters, whether they're Democrats or Republicans or independents. They're concerned about the economics. So any voter in New York City who voted for Trump, they voted for Trump because they believed in their hearts and minds that the economy was better for them and their families when he was president. They weren't happy with what transpired with the economy with Biden. I mean, Democrats could claim otherwise, but these people were going by what they believed, what they felt, and what mattered to them. And plus some of the social stuff. I mean, Democrats spend too much time focusing on identity and social issues that aren't cultural issues that aren't important to most voters. I mean, yes, nobody wants to see anybody who's transgender, harmed or discriminated against. But there comes a time when you need to draw the line at certain areas and not make it seem like it's your policy priority. Yes, the Democrats already won the battle on abortion and women were going to be with the party when it came to looking to restore abortion rights. The party needed to pivot towards the economy and what was happening and what voters felt uncomfortable with. And they did not do that. Nor did they do the non-traditional social media. They felt comfortable doing the usual. Donald Trump and his team, they went where they know their voters are, and they met the voters where they were. They weren't trying to pull them towards them. They went to where they were. And for Democrats sort of need to do. And and there's also a backlash towards Democrats being so ultra progressive and ultra left, and the media portrayal of them as ultra left worked against the party. But the pendulum's swinging back towards the center. Democrats need to move with that pendulum and move back to the center. And I would just recreate what Bill Clinton did and what Barack Obama did when they won the presidency in 92 and in 2008.
Michael, any Democrats getting it right in your book that are reading the tea leaves? Can you highlight
Um,
anyone?
the only one right now locally is Richie Torres. He's the only one that's reading it tea leaves and is reading it correctly. He's one. I haven't heard of others. I believe Hakeem Jeffrey, because he and I were colleagues together in the legislature. He is a moderate, and I think he knows how to move his caucus in the right direction for the American people. So I would look to Richie. I'd look to Hakeem Jeffries. I'm not that familiar with a lot of the folks at the national level right now, but I think these are the two in Congress, I think, who are sounding the right notes and and can move the party in the right direction. I think a rising star is a guy like Wes Moore, who's the governor of Maryland.
Yeah, I keep hearing his name as well.
Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky. I think Beshear is the governor of a red state. He's a Democrat, and I think he has something to offer. And when it comes to how do you win Republican votes in a red state, and Democrats need to recognize that most Americans to today identify as independents. They're in the middle. They're in the center. Even the ones that say the Democrats are saying that they're Republicans, they're still basically in the center. And we need to govern towards the middle.
Mike, we're going to wrap this up because I know you have a lot going on. What's best day on the job, whether it be politically or now in your new role with the Post?
Best day on the job when I was in the legislature
No, it could be
was
both. It could be both. The day you felt you won the day.
I'm going to start with my best day in legislature, which was when we passed legislation regarding education in New York. Don't what is it? Nothing. Not sure left behind. It was one of the Obama signature education issues that we got right. That's in my view served kids in public schools as well as kids in charter schools. I felt very good when the assembly passed that legislation, and I think it worked out well for our school kids. Best standing job in the New York Post was that anytime I get to write a column that reflects the interests of New York and what we're going through. It was a column, two of them I wrote about my encounter with a threatening, emotionally disturbed person on the subway and how I was able to handle it safely for myself and for the passengers.
Wonderful. Worst day.
Worst day. Uh, Gosh, I can't say I've ever had a worst day. Every day that I wake up is a great day.
Well, right. Optimist. Michael, a do-over. Something you would say in hindsight, I wish I would not have done that. I wish I had an opportunity to do it over.
Uh, Probably would have completed the LSAT and gone to law school.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
'Cause
Michael,
I walked out of the LSAT because I wasn't comfortable doing it. I said, "What the hell am I doing this for?" I got up and walked out halfway through.
wow. Michael, anything you want to add that I forgot to ask you or you want to mention?
Uh, no, I think we covered everything. I don't. I believe the mayor's going to have Eric Adams will have a tough time winning re-election. And eventually he's going to have to recognize that, and Democrats will pivot to somebody who I hope is not Andrew Cuomo.
Wow. So if you were to handicap it, who if it's not Cuomo, again, let's just say you had a crystal ball.
If it's not Cuomo and it's not Richard Torres, Scott Stringer.
Wow. Wow.
He's a former colleague. I've known him for years before the assembly. Yes, he's a progressive, but he's a progressive, with lots of common sense and who actually believes that government can be made to work for the people. And I think that's important. We have to get people elected office who want to make city government work.
Michael, thank you so much for taking the time, man. And again, as we started at the top, happy holidays to you and yours. And hopefully this won't be the last time we have a conversation about all things politics.
Absolutely. Oh, and my best day was when my boys were born. When I was
Ah,
married,
yeah,
my
yeah.
boys
Well
were born.
said. Well said. Well said. Well said. Take care, my friend, and thank you
All
again, all
right.
right, for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to talk. I know you're busy. Talk soon. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye
Always a
bye.
pleasure. Thanks. Bye bye.